All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another section of Introduction to American Politics. Today we're going to be talking about the courts, the judiciary branch. Now, one of the things that is first and foremost the most remarkable thing about this institution is not that it's the unelected branch of the government, not that it is one of the most powerful courts not only in the country but in the world, but how popular it is. I mean, look at these approval numbers compared to other institutions. I mean, they have an approval rating that has averaged above 50 over the past 20 years and is really just now occasionally venturing into that net disapproval territory. But even so, compare that with other institutions. Congress has an approval rating that barely ventures out of the teens. Uh, President Trump's approval rating usually hovers around 40%, give or take a couple of percentage points. So the Supreme Court is a remarkably popular institution. And there are a couple of reasons why that might be. And we are going to go over some things that I think kind of hint at why that might be when we talk about what the courts are, the function that it serves, and ultimately what the implications are for everyday life. So first off, why do we have courts at all? I mean, why wouldn't we have parties arbitrate conflicts or mitigate conflicts on their own? Why can't two parties, when they are in disagreement, simply sit down and discuss their differences amongst each other? There was, after all, a time when, if a person was accused of committing a crime, the person who was the victim of that crime it was ultimately his or her responsibility to see that justice was done. Well, as is, a repeated refrain in this course, that led to a lot of coordination problems. So what do courts do? They are ultimately the solution to a coordination problem. They use their own legal expertise for the purpose of interpretation and the peaceful resolution of conflict. And in doing so, they also solve another coordination problem, which they resolve and enforce property rights, as well as the enforcement of both public goods and the continued protection of private property rights. So if there is a dispute over who owns something, be it a parcel of land or an object, the courts can step in and resolve it in a neutral non-ideological way. So why are the courts fairly popular? Well, it could have something to do with the fact that they are seen as nonpartisan. Whenever an institution becomes partisan, they are almost automatically going to turn off at least half of the population. However, the courts, the Supreme Court at least at the national level, is a nonpartisan institution. It might not be non-political, which we'll get to later, but it is nonpartisan. And the fact that they are to arbitrate an issue and engage in unbiased decision-making fosters legitimacy. If they are seen as unbiased, then they cannot be accused of manipulating legal decisions in a way that favors one political party or one partisan leaning over another. The Supreme Court in the United States also tries to adhere to consistency in decision making. When the Supreme Court issues a ruling, all lower courts have to adhere to that ruling. That way, there is consistency not only across time, but across geography, across the nation. This fosters common knowledge in the United States as to what the law is. And this is what's known as precedent. It's when a higher court has issued a decision or a statement on an issue that all lower courts now have to adhere to. The Supreme Court also tries its best to adhere to its own precedent. However, unlike lower courts, they are the only ones that do have the power to overturn precedent if they deem it necessary, though historically that is rare. And finally, they are, in theory, supposed to have independence from the elected branches. There is limited political pressure from public opinion from the executive, from the legislative branches, in order to create a legal outcome that benefits one ideology or one party over another.